Hello. So it's been a while. That's because I have a full-time job and I was suffering a bit from the good old burnout. So right now, I kinda just want to do something fun. So we're gonna rank all the different iterations of 002 from Cyborg 009. To be clear, I'm not ranking his different lookalikes from the previous video, but if you really need to hear my opinion on this, here's a tier list. I'm also not going to be ranking the media itself. I only care about the Jet within. I'll be ranking them using the scientific method of vibes, and whether or not he's a punk anarchist or a f***ing fed. Don't put a whole lot of confidence into this ranking. The order changed the entire time I was writing this script, and I'll probably disagree with my own video tomorrow. Usually with these kinds of ranking videos, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, but y'all already know what I'm putting at the bottom. Spoilers, this is the worst one. And it's hard to start with that one because there's a lot of history that we gotta go through first. So instead, I thought I'd go in chronological order and then rank them along the way. This video is being released on February 2nd, that's Jet's birthday, as well as during the 60-year anniversary of the Cyborg 009 series as a whole. So we have a lot of material to go through. Obviously, I'm only going to rank the series that I've seen, so unfortunately that doesn't include anything animated from the 60s. I just haven't seen it. It also doesn't include anything that hasn't been translated into English, such as
Boonborg 009
He's a ruler.
Bigo Parts Delete.
Okay. And probably some others I'm not even aware of or have forgotten about. Like I said, we're just having some loosey-goosey fun. Also, like, spoilers, I'm gonna be talking about plot stuff here, but I also won't go too deep. I still want to leave some mystery where I can. Anyway, let's get to it. We're going in chronological order, which means we're starting with Ishina Mori really did sit down and make a cute little manga series about the horrors of being forcibly turned into a war machine. Like I said, I'm not going to be talking as much about the media itself, but for all of its usage of blackface, weird pacing, and inconsistent tone, I still recommend it. It's an anti-war story with an international cast that was otherwise unheard of in its time. The first 10 volumes consist of the main story of the series, and it was translated into English by Tokyopop back in the early 2000s. We're starting out strong with this iteration of Jet. It's literally a classic. He's introduced in a West Side Story parody, doing a little dance, stealing some apples, killing the rival gang leader, and then running from the cops before finally getting picked up by agents of Black Ghost. 4 brilliant pages that instantly introduce us to Jet's character. The next time we see him, he's had some work done, you know, got some jet engines in his legs, as well as the prototype for the accelerator that the main character uses. For those of you who somehow found your way to this video, and you don't know the premise of Cyborg 009, the titular character 009, we can also just call him Joe, has an accelerator, a switch that makes him move at an absurd speed, and therefore makes him very OP. And Jet has a prototype of the accelerator, which therefore only goes at moderately absurd speeds, and is not very OP. What are some highlights of this version of Jet? They clock his flying speed initially at Mach 5, and then sometimes even beyond that. He shows off his abilities by getting some food for his new pals. The English translation sometimes gives him greaser lingo.
Right on, Daddy-o.
And at one point, Jet loses a leg, but then he gets better. So this is the first time that we see him losing a limb. This is going to be a frequent problem for his fragile little bird bones. He's constantly losing limbs. At one point, they need to pass underneath a waterfall in order to get into this base, and Ishina Mori imagined what that would look like from the other side of this waterfall, and he blessed us with this. I don't know, it's silly, I love this panel. Jet falls from the sky several times, either onto his face, his neck, or gets stuck into the ground by his nose. He also plays football. That's gonna be a bad time for both you and whoever you run into, my dude. There's this great panel that I had to do my own rendition of. He's got a bunch of different love interests, like terminal heiress Ava Klein, undercover FBI agent Eleanor Baker, bird girl Rada, and the literal Babylonian goddess of love, war, and fertility, Ishtar. He plays guitar and even writes a lullaby, and then they recorded it into a real song. That's enough of that. And then they put it on a shirt. Pros. He's adorable, he's got lots of love interests, he's a very troubled but ultimately good-hearted kid. Cons. He often just blends in with the rest of the team. He's just one of the guys. He gets some moments to shine, but those moments are often too few and far between. Which is kinda just how it is being a character in Cyborg 009 that isn't 009. So now for the ranking. And like I said, I'm not ranking the media, I'm just ranking the Jet. So for now, this is going to be our baseline. It's a good start, but it's not quite enough depth there. So like I mentioned, I'm going to skip over the animated stuff from the 60s. I know about the penguin with the gun. I know that Joe appears to kiss Jet when he rescues him, so you know, love wins. Regardless, let's move on to the plot for this series takes place after the original ending to the manga, and it assumes that you're already familiar with the characters in the way that everyone is briefly and brilliantly reintroduced. Jet and Joe are BFF speedy boys that race cars together. Jet's personality here is roughly the same as it was in the manga, but it just feels like more? Like he's more. I don't know how else to put it. More of that. His personality really shines through here. In general, his whole personality here is 009's cool protective big brother. Some highlights. He drives a motorcycle. 007 talks shit about New York street punks in front of Jet, and then, yeah. In this iteration, our bisexual king's gang was called the Blue Rose Gang. His friend gave him a blood donation when he got hit by a car as a kid, and then later, when his friend needs blood from him, Jet can only walk away. My dude, tell them you have a fucked up blood disease or something. Yeah, sorry pal, my blood type is now jet fuel. Every time the old gays hit on him, he panics. They know Jet. He goes out flying for fun and then ends up stopping a plane crash. He gets addicted to playing poker even though a fight has broken out around him, and then he flips his shit when his winning hand gets shot out of his grip. His whole arm gets ripped off by a giant stone thing. And let's be clear about one thing, those lookalikes from the previous video, this is the Jet that they're borrowing from. Soldato J being 70% leg, that's our 1979 Jet right there. The generation before me in Japan, this is the Jet that they know and love most dearly. Iconic. Pros. Tough guy. Big brother. Stork legs. I like the way that his hair behaves. Cons. He doesn't have his accelerator in this series and the animation is a bit stiff. Let's put this one just above the manga. Same great vibes, but even more personality. If I had to summarize this iteration of Jet in one word, it would be soft. They took his design from the TV series and then just took some sandpaper to all of his sharp edges and gave him some hair conditioner. Now he's got this precious soft look to him. But don't let his newfound softness fool you, he's still a tough guy. Look, he's a bullfighter for a single frame. Let's look at some of the soft boy things he does in this movie. Pretty early in the movie, there's a scene where he opens up to 004 about how maybe he doesn't like being a cyborg so much. This is a topic that 004 regularly talks about, but Jet nearly never does. So this is also a great opportunity for me to talk about human passing. How much can the cyborgs pass as human? Jet passes really well as a human. Being a cyborg is nearly never a problem for him in the looks department. 004, on the other hand, is a lot more obviously mechanical, especially if he's not wearing gloves. Human characters often remark on how cold his skin feels. He only passes as a human if he's totally covered from the neck down. So his angst about being a cyborg makes sense. So since Jet isn't affected by passing off as human, and since he regularly enjoys the benefits of his powers, he simply doesn't talk about actually maybe not having such a good time with being a cyborg. To be sure, we know how he feels about being made into a cyborg. They make it clear that Jet lives solely for revenge. But this is the first time that we see him kind of open up about how he feels about being a cyborg. Later on, he gives his cybernetic heart thingy to 003 so she can go along with the team while he stays behind. Aww. He also gives awkward haha no homo hugs, tugs lightly on 004's collar. He cries, for reasons you're just gonna have to go watch the movie for. I love it when they expand on Jet's character like this. Usually he's just the cool and calm guy until someone pisses him off and he flies off the handle, but this movie shows that he's got a soft, sensitive side too. Pros. Soft. Contemplative. Talks about how he's feeling. Cares a lot about 004 especially. Cons. Maybe too soft. Doesn't fly off the handle. I kinda need to see him punch someone. When I first conceptualized this ranking, I thought I was gonna put this movie version of Jet a little higher on my list, but upon seeing the movie again, there just isn't enough there, so we'll put this below the manga. I'm sorry, Legend of the Super Galaxy. I love you, Legend of the Super Galaxy. Okay, full disclosure, this was my introduction to Cyborg 009, so I'm gonna be a little biased. I caught Android Kikaider during its premiere on Adult Swim in the summer of 2003, and I loved it.
A battle android with the soul of a hero.
To this day, it's still my favorite anime series. Yes, that is absolutely nostalgia goggles. I don't care. I love it. You know how sometimes you see something and you go, statistically speaking, this is someone's favorite? Well, now you know who the statistic is for Kikaider. So in 2003, I immediately googled Kikaider and learned all about Ashina Mori's other series. You know, it's been 20 years and I still haven't seen or read any of Kamen Rider. I know that's blasphemy. You know what you gotta do? You gotta tell me there's a Jet in there. I will consume the entire franchise in a weekend. I will bend time to my will in order to do so. Kikaider had this brooding, moody, slow-paced atmosphere that my teenage heart really loved. In comparison, Cyborg 009 is kind of well, it's just kind of silly. That's not to say Kikaider doesn't have its own moments of comic relief, but Cyborg 009 tends to swing wildly between some pretty heavy topics and, well, belly button kangaroo man. At some point I kind of hopped off watching the episodes as they came out because I was so turned off by its goofiness. I loved the premise, I just didn't like the execution. And truthfully, back then, the part that I liked the least was not belly button kangaroo man. It was Jet. Why? Why would you design your character this way? What is even going on there? And I think the turnaround happened when I saw people online asking the same questions that I was asking, and then all of a sudden, my hipster contrarian heart started beating for the underdog. This isn't bad character design. This is great character design. This is the best character design ever. Like, yeah, I'm joking, but like, the fact that different artists just keep making him again and again and again and again, it feels true. Unlike its predecessors, this animated series was meant to be as faithful to the original manga as possible. It mostly comprises of all of the stories told in the first 10 volumes. And Jet starts off, well, angry. He's the driving force behind most of the lessons the first few episodes are trying to teach. You know, have a plan. Don't just fly off into battle by yourself. You're much stronger if you work together with your team. Maybe think before attacking someone that might be sympathetic. Actually, I don't think that he ever learns to hesitate with that trigger finger. In an attempt to add a little bit more depth to their characters, Jet has a minor feeling of rivalry towards Joe, but it doesn't last long, and it isn't really explored. But it'll be around in the other series. Eventually Jet learns to chill out and be cool to his teammates, but we're always just waiting for Jet to lose his temper and do some dumb shit to get the action started. Some highlights? Man, they really can't keep their hands off of each other. The way that he just kind of drops out of the sky and decks this guy in the face. Anytime Jet and 004 team up to become a fighter plane is just a good time. He can't sit the fuck still at the bottom of the sea in silence while waiting for the enemy to move on, so instead he has 008 propel him up out of the water and into the sky so he can do some reconnaissance.
It's recognizance.
That's not the right word. No, you know what? That's in character. He'd rather just jump in and deck someone. He hates doing recon so much, he literally doesn't even know the word for it. He doesn't know how to cook because he didn't want to learn from 006 and then he regrets it later. That scene from the manga where he loses a leg, he kind of just gets a bad paper cut here. Oh wow, he really does bleed jet fuel. He flies perpendicularly in front of this guy's plane to crash it using only his wake turbulence. I don't imagine that Dr. Gilmore sat him down and gave him an entire education on aerodynamics, so anytime Jet displays this seemingly instinctive knowledge of aeronautical combat, it's a treat to witness. Every once in a while he tries to have a tender moment with 003, and it's usually kinda sweet. And then like this entire scene, pros, lots of great action scenes and lots of great character moments. Cons, suffers a lot from off-model animating. It's clear that a lot of his scenes were left to inexperienced animators. With all that said, he's going to the top. Let's see if he stays there. Cyborg 009 fans ate really well in the 2010s. We got so much, starting with...
Already dead.
After Ishinomori graciously brought Jet and Joe back from the brink of death due to the impassioned cries from fans, he still had the urge to wrap up the series in a big way and give his characters a happy ending. But like, how do you wrap up a series like Cyborg 009 if not for the shooting star ending? After his death in 1998, his son Joe... He named his son Joe. Compiled his father's notes and organized some illustrators to create a 5-volume ending to the series. However, there were a lot of strange and controversial decisions made with this series. And I'll be honest, the vibes are off. This Jet starts out really strong. At the start, he's a private detective with a shitty little office, and you can tell that he only does jobs for the local community that can't otherwise afford it, because he's good at what he does, but his sign is a little piece of paper that he's tacked to the door of his office. But then everything after this feels like a fever dream, and he just has, like, the worst time. You want to talk about his fragile little bird bones, Jesus Christ. But then he gets better, and then he gets an upgrade. He can defeat enemies just by flying past them and poking them. And then he shoots a cop, and then he gets another upgrade. Now he can teleport, and then he loses his legs again, because giant Jesus Christ hits him with his trademark laser eyes attack. Pros? A true pillar of his community. Gets some cool new powers. Cons? What? Huh? We'll just put this at the bottom? Surely it can't get any worse than... Oh, fuck.
Who protects peace and freedom? America, that's who!
I want to start this off by saying I actually kind of like this movie, and I can appreciate what they were trying to do. At the start of the movie, the team has been disbanded for 27 years, and there was such a major change in, well, Jet's entire personality, that they had to include a prequel manga chapter with a physical release just to explain what the hell happened. Which I'll briefly summarize because it's important to Jet's character. Dr. Gilmore makes an appeal to the UN for nuclear disarmament and instead hire his cyborg team as a peacekeeping PMC. Except nobody likes that idea, especially the US. So the issue is that Gilmore can no longer financially support 9 allowances, so he has to dismiss everyone. 007 says he's going to go home to England to join MI6, to which Jet replies,
That's the group that said they don't need us!
I mean, technically it was the US, but go off. Gilmore says he needs one person to stick around with him and be the team lead, in case they ever need to be assembled again, and Jet immediately volunteers. Awkward, because Gilmore was hoping that Joe would volunteer. And then 10 pages after saying,
That's the group that said they don't need us!
Jet says to Joe,
The United States will become increasingly powerful in the future.
I mean, yeah.
In the United States, if we can combine our powers, there's no chance that a force of evil will come to be.
Huh? Jet, that's the group that said they don't need us. Remember that? 10 pages ago? Apparently not, because he decks Joe, and then he goes to work for the NSA. And the next time we see him... I mean, we gotta address this redesign. I can easily imagine the discussion went something like, we need to tone down his silly appearance because we want to tell a serious grown-up story here. Nose, gone. There isn't even like a hint of it anymore. His skin tone has also been lightened a lot, I'm assuming to make it clear that he's a lot more machine now. He's gotten a haircut, which makes sense if he works as a government agent, he's got to fit the regs, but it still doesn't look like it's within regulation. The pompadour is an odd choice, big Kazuhira Miller vibes, but looks very strange on a modern US government employee. This movie also started the trend of making Jet blonde. I don't know why they did this. Maybe if he had his red hair, he'd look weird with his white skin, look too much like a clown. I don't know. Either way, I don't approve. He's got to have the fiery red hair. And like, his design aside, his motives just don't make a whole lot of sense. In some parts, he seems to get that this just isn't right. But then as soon as he sees Joe again for the first time in nearly 3 decades...
Who protects peace and freedom? America, that's who!
That Gilmore rejection must have really hurt for him to do such a swift 180. The only way that I can accept this is that this is the final cry of blind patriotism of someone who knows deep down that it's bullshit. And like, maybe their rationale was, he's a white US American, he's gotta wave the red, white, and blue, except that's literally never been his character. He isn't patriotic. That's the kind of blind nationalism of someone who's never left the country. Not only does Jet regularly travel the world and have an international found family, he must also realize that had he not gotten picked up by Black Ghost, he either would have died in prison or in a war. Either way, at the hands of a country that only views people from his class as either prison fodder or cannon fodder. Aside from all of that, at the end of the day, they bumped your boy up to secondary protagonist. That's pretty rad. He gets all kinds of great action scenes, lots of scenes of introspection. He barges into the office of capitalism personified and demands answers. And, as he always does, he redeems himself. I don't know. Go watch this movie. Make your own decisions. The plot is so dumb, but it's fun? It's riffable? Go see it. Come back. Tell me what you thought. Pros. All that delicious screen time. Cons. A fucking fed, complete redesign, baffling hypocrisy, doesn't even get to wear the uniform. This one is the worst one.
Cyborg 009.
Did you know that there's an American comic version of Cyborg 009? Did you know that it's really fucking good? You can kind of look at it as an abbreviated version of the original 10 volumes of the manga. Genuinely, if you're a bit hesitant to read the original manga, this is a perfectly fine substitute to get the gist of the characters and the story. But how's the Jet? Listen, I know I just got done complaining about this Jet and his lack of a prominent profile, but hear me out. If you're gonna give us a short-nosed Jet, this is nearly perfect. Just give him a little bit more beak. That would be perfect. He's still got the blonde hair, what are you gonna do? But they kept his hair long, which is important. Our boy does not care about gender norms. He's a rebellious street punk and he wants his long hair. Pros. For a modern design, nearly perfect. Great foreshadowing and a great summary of his character. Cons. A little more beak as a treat and keeping him a ginger would have made this. As for the ranking, jeez. You know what? This is my ranking. He goes here. When this series was first announced, everyone's collective responses were, why? These two series are very different. But my god, if they didn't put their entire collective pussy into this one. Their character designs on fucking point. There was a promo image circulating when it was first announced that had the faceless supporting cast, and I noticed one of them had 2 gun belts before spotting the shadow of the owner. They gave Jet 2 guns. He's the only one that has 2 guns. Listen, whoever got to write and animate this, they were fans. They did their research. They gave him a new jacket with his name on the back. This is, by my count, the 3rd jacket he's owned that has his name on the back. That one love interest chick that he was a dick to makes a cameo. Even though it's a crossover with like 1 billion characters, every character gets a chance to shine, and Jet gets this rad action scene. The art is great, the animation is great. This is the best the team has ever looked. The plot is, I don't know, I don't care. I'm only here for this one. Pros. They took one look at what was happening over there and went, anyway, and gave him his nose back. Cons. The only thing I can think of is that there just isn't enough of him. So because of that, I gotta put this one on the top shelf.
I must be crazy. You must know.
This was most of y'all's introduction to this character, wasn't it? I'm only assuming because it's on Netflix. Call of Justice is basically the direct sequel to RE. And this Jet is one step better than RE Jet because now he's got this post-military homeless vibe. He quit the NSA, he's growing his hair out again, he's healing. You love to see it. He's still got his blonde hair. What are you gonna do? His nose is better? Still lots of room for improvement though? I've said before that the tone of Cyborg 009 is kind of a mess, but this series, it's trying to be super serious, and it ends up being so goofy and corny. Look at their fucking modern warfare-ass uniforms. Anyway, let's look at some highlights. Gilmore sends Jet out to do a diplomacy check with the US military. It ends exactly how you think it does. Jet doesn't do diplomacy. Gilmore knows this. That's exactly why he didn't pick him as the team lead. Look at this smug asshole. Boy, don't act like you didn't just work for them. Fragile little bird bones again, twice cockless. Okay, remember when I talked about how he has this instinctive understanding of aerodynamics? Let's add astrophysics to that too, because at one point he's fighting in space, about to run out of fuel and oxygen, so he creates this debris field around him so that his unconscious body will pinball off of the debris and end up at the door of a space station so Joe can pull him to safety. Oh yeah, meteor dive baby! Uh-oh. Oh, we're just gonna leave him there? Okay. Pros. A Fed no longer. Feels like a punk restored. Cons. Design is still not great. We never get to see him deck anyone. For the ranking, we'll put it just above RE. And with that, that's kind of all of the whoa, hold up, hot off the presses. Bless fan translators. I have no idea what 8-Man is. Be right back. I now know what 8-Man is. Okay, so this is another crossover, and it's pretty funny. Jet just kind of fucks shit up for most of it. And it seems like other than Joe, he's the only cyborg the Skull seems to remember, because he's got a trap ready for him, and it's a really good trap. He's encaged in a sphere of electric bats mid-air, which will eventually electrocute him to death. Except he's got teammates, they're gonna save him. And then it's just a free-for-all on Skull's base. It's hilarious. Pros. Lives rent-free in Skull's, well, Skull. I can sympathize. Cons. He doesn't do much that's terribly exciting. We'll put him just under Super Galaxy. That feels a bit too low. So there it is. Like I said, don't take this ranking too seriously, this is just my lowly opinion. Thank you for watching this. I rewrote the script like 4 times, so if it seems like a mess, that's because it is. I have another video project lined up for this summer. It's tangentially related to what I normally talk about, so I hope you look forward to that. Can't wait to see if they have anything planned for the 60th anniversary of the series. Maybe I'll pin a comment about whatever they end up doing, if anything. If any of this seemed interesting and you haven't read or seen it, I can recommend it. You probably won't not like it.